Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and this is my Week 8 battle of the UPC. We are, of course, the Baltimore Oriolus, and our opponent is Phalop, coach of the Dewford Drapions. Now, Phalop is sitting pretty nice in the UPC. He is 5-2. He is tops of the Kanto Conference, and he is tops of our division. We are in the red division of the Kanto Conference, and that means that this is the second time that we're playing him this season. Now, the first time that we played him, we had quite a goofy game. The battle was really close. The game was more or less decided by a crit from my Manaphy on his Nidoking. And it set up the stage for a 4-0 sweep. Not 4-0 sweep. It was a 1-0 victory, but my Nidoqueen brought the game back with 4 kills, 3 of which came right at the end in the form of a sweep. It got a kill on Como-O, Honchkrow, and Sylveon to end the game. So it was really unfortunate that we had to win in that way. I'm just really getting to know all these guys in the UPC, and Phalop seems like such a stand-up guy. So I felt really bad about winning in that way, because he definitely, didn't deserve that. But at the end of the day, I guess, they always say it's, Pokemon, it's the game we choose to play. But, whatever, that doesn't make it any better. It's really frustrating when people say that. But I digress. Anyway, I'll throw his team up on the screen. It's for you guys to see. He has changed his team a little bit since the last time we battled. He now has Manaphy, Mega Pidgeot, Nidoking, Infernape, Serena, Sylveon, Mismagius, Metagross, Como-O, Honchkrow, and a Alolan Golem. The last time we played, he had a Alolan Raichu instead of Alolan Golem, and he had Entei instead of Infernape. I think those are some real nice swaps for him. Infernape is a really freaking good Pokemon. Anyone who tells you otherwise hasn't had to face an Infernape, because it's so hard to prep for, because it has amazing coverage and it has lots of setup, and it has the ability to go physical or special, and even in some cheeky cases it can be physically defensive. Like, it's really good against like Scizors and Bisharps and things like that. But as you can see, he has brought Infernape, Mismagius, Como-O, Metagross, Pidgeot, Mega Pidgeot, I should say, and he's also brought Manaphy. Now, my team this week is, I guess, pretty offensive for the most part. I'll start off by talking about my Nidoqueen. It's Lumberry with Stealth Rock, Crunch, Poison Jab, and Earthquake. I went with a physical set over a special set because I wanted to be able to hit the Sylveon and Mismagius pretty hard, which otherwise can sort of tank hits. Mismagius especially. Sylveon still doesn't want to take a Sludge Wave, but Mismagius is immune to Earthquake. It's resisted to poison moves. So I figured I would put Crunch on this thing, and I could hit the Mismagius for a lot of damage. And I put Lumberry on this in case he has Mismagius in on me, like he brings it in after Nidoqueen gets a kill, thinking that he could Will-O-Wisp me or something. Or maybe, I can come in and I'll switch. I can absorb a Will-O-Wisp and do a lot of damage with Crunch. Especially given the 6 of Pokemon that Phalop has brought, Nidoqueen's main job really is just to set up Stealth Rock, because Pidgeot is so hard to deal with for my team. So I really need that. They really need that support from the Stealth Rocks to whittle it down, to limit the number of switch-ins that it has. It's even more true because the team that he's brought is pretty good against Nidoqueen. Pretty much everything outspeeds it except for Metagross, and everything has ways to hit it relatively hard. I don't have a lot of I can't take a lot of resistant hits in this matchup because he just doesn't have a lot of typings that Nidoqueen resists. The only thing is like close combat from Infernape. So anyway, yeah, that's the Nidoqueen. I'm going to be leading it for sure, because I identified that Pidgeot there. Next up, we have Tapu Bulu. We have a Scarf set with Woodhammer, Hornleech, Stone Edge, and Dazzling Gleam. I wanted Bulu to be Scarf to provide an option to revenge kill Manaphy, potentially. The last time I brought Bulu in this matchup, I brought an Assault Vest version against the to counter the Manaphy. I'm kind of expecting the Ice Z move on Manaphy because that will Oko my Tapu Bulu. It's also possible that he brings something like Z Rain Dance, in which case my Bulu is not going to be that great against a +3 Manaphy. But if he is the Ice Z move, then we can surprise him with a Scarf and Oko him. In case he is Rain Dance Manaphy, I have brought a Scarf Manectric. Last time I brought a kind of funky, bulky Manectric to try and pretend to be a Pidgeot switch-in. It ended up working out, but I don't think it was a great set. But in any case, we have Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Overheat, and Hidden Power Psychic. Psychic for the Como-O, for the Nidoking, and apparently for Infernape. I didn't actually know he had Infernape until like a few hours before this match, and I had already finished my team, and I was like, shoot, what do I need to do? I ended up not making too many changes, but in any case, yeah, this is here to Revenge Kill Manaphy. Thunderbolt does 99.6% minimum to a 0 HP Manaphy. It's possible that he runs Wakanberry again, which is, that's what he ran the first time we played, but I don't think that's as likely. I think he'll try and have something for the Tapu Bulu. Next up, we have Vaporeon. It's a physically defensive spread with Ice Beam, Scald, Wish, and Roar. I originally had Heal Bell because it would have been a good move to have versus Entei, but as I mentioned, Phalop dropped his Entei for Infernape, but I didn't know about that until right before the match. So I dropped Heal Bell for Ice Beam because it allows me to hit Pidgeot super effectively, Como-O super effectively. Not that either of them really appreciate Scald, but it'd be nice just to be able to deal a little bit more damage. Looking at the matchup here, it's going to be nice for the Infernape for sure, and it's also going to be nice for the Metagross. Metagross, unless it's packing Thunder Punch, is not going to be able to do a whole lot to Vaporeon. Next up, we have Latios. It's a Roost Calm Mind set. It's fast and bulky, max HP, max speed, with Psyshock and Thunderbolt as the coverage moves. Psyshock is just the good attacking move that it has. It's also preferred over Psychic because of the Vismagius and the Sylveon. Thunderbolt hits the other Pokemon on his team for reasonable damage, such as Metagross and Honchkrow. It also can hit Pidgeot super effectively. It can hit Manaphy super effectively. The nice thing about Latios is that if he doesn't bring something like Specs Sylveon, he doesn't have a lot of ways to revenge me super easily once I get set up. Unless he's like Scarf Como-O or something. So if we can bring this in on a Pokemon that doesn't really threaten it, maybe like a choice locked Infernape or something like that. Even potentially the Metagross. Metagross doesn't threaten Latios that much, since it's not like Mega Metagross or anything like that. Latios is a potential good win condition here. And then the last Pokemon that we've brought is an Autotomize Celesteela with Akaberry. It's Autotomize, Heavy Slam, Earthquake, and Seed Bomb. The nice thing is that other than Infernape, he doesn't have a ton of great ways to damage Celesteela, so we should have a good opportunity to set up versus a lot of his team. And as soon as we get a +1 attack boost, things are really going to start dropping left and right. Akaberry is there for the Pidgeot because, if I can't set up an Autotomize, I can at least use Celesteela as a pivot into Pidgeot. Pidgeot is a huge threat to my team. Heavy Slam unboosted does like 65% or so to a non-HP invested Mega Pidgeot. So that's again why having some chip damage on the Pidgeot is going to be super important, because that's how I'm going to be able to take it out with Celesteela. So as I mentioned, I am going to lead off with my Nidoqueen because I want that thing to be able to set up rocks as soon as possible. And so I go ahead and I do that, and he leads with the Infernape. So now what I'm worried about here is that he is some sort of anti-lead with either Taunt or Fake Out to potentially take me on. If he has a Life Orb with a Fake Out as an attacking move, then I'm pretty sure the combination of Fake Out plus Earthquake does kill me. So in case he goes for a Taunt, I decided to go to Earthquake here. I changed my strategy, which I kind of regret, but maybe I'm just being results oriented. He does go for the U-turn, and he's going to make a good pivot out into his Mismagius, and he's going to dodge my Earthquake. So that's a nice play. And even if I did go for rocks, it's pretty nice for him to get his Mismagius in here. It's pretty safe for him to do that. But I'm not sure exactly what he's going to go for. If he has like Life Orb Psychic or something like that, it could potentially do a lot to my Nidoqueen. But I don't really have anything else to switch in, and as I mentioned in the intro, Nidoqueen just isn't that potent versus Phalop. Like, it'd be nice to, like, it has a lot of good offensive coverage, but it's just too slow for Phalop's team this week. He's brought a very offensive team. So there's also a chance that he goes for the Will-O-Wisp, like I had mentioned. And I know that I can heal that up with my Lumberry and land a huge crunch on this thing. So he's just going to go for the Shadow Ball, which is perfectly reasonable because I don't have a resist. And I deal 94% damage with this crunch, which is nice. And he is going to switch out now, and I'm going to double into my Manectric. I decided to go into Manectric because I didn't want Nidoqueen to take too much more damage, because I still haven't set up rocks. Even though Nidoqueen's not like potent offensively in this matchup at this point, I still want to keep it around to potentially set up rocks so I can bring it in on Metagross or a Choice Locked Infernape or something like that. And I knew Manectric wouldn't take a ton from Shadow Ball because it doesn't seem like this is a attack boosting Mismagius. It doesn't have Life Orb or Choice Specs or anything like that. And Manectric is a Pokemon that I don't really need HP on for it to be effective. I just need it to revenge Pidgeot and Manaphy. So he goes into his amazing Dino. I like that nickname. And, you know, this is just a good opportunity for me to Volt Switch. I am going to go into my Celesteela, if I am not mistaken. Bulu might have been a decent play here as well, but Celesteela just seemed like the right choice to me. And he does go for the Dragon Claw. That damage suggests that he's Max Attack Adamant. Or, sorry, Max Attack Jolly. Definitely not Adamant. I guess he could have been like Adamant with not Max Attack. But in any case, he's definitely attack invested. It doesn't have special attack. So here, I'm just going to click the Heavy Slam, because if I can get chip damage off on this Como-O, that's pretty nice. And he does go into the Metagross, and I do 5%. So this is probably an Impish Metagross. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty positive, just based on the damage calcs that I've done after the match. It maybe isn't like max Impish, but it's at least full HP with some sort of defense investment. Because I'm a max attack Celesteela, so that's pretty crazy. But I'm kind of relieved that this is not an offensive Metagross. It makes it a little bit easier for me to deal with. I don't have a great way to break it, because my Nidoqueen is physical this week. If I can get in with Manectric and get off an Overheat, that might be nice. Vaporeon can do some work to it, and Latias probably sets up on it. But anyway, as I mentioned, this isn't super offensive, so I think this is a pretty safe switch into my Vaporeon. Sorry, I'm bringing my Nidoqueen because I want to set up my rocks. He goes for his rocks, and now he brings in the Pidgeot. And again, this is kind of the situation I was afraid of. This is why having rocks up just a little sooner would have been nice. But in any case, I don't have a switch in here. I don't want to go into my Celesteela right away, because, like, one, it's kind of obvious, and two, I still want to try and preserve that as a win condition if I can. So I'm going to go into Manectric. There's not a move that he can go for that can Oko me, and if he decides to U-turn, I guess he'll go into Infernape, which would be unfortunate, but I have better switch-ins for Infernape than I do for Pidgeot, so I am going to double on out of here, bring in the Manectric like I mentioned. He's going to Mega Evolve, and he's going to go for a Fatty Hurricane, and it's going to do 54%, and he gets the Confusion. The damage suggests that he is max attack. You know, that's not really a surprise. I can't really tell if he's timid or modest, but in any case, I'm just going to go for the electric move here. I'm just going to go for Thunderbolt as he doubles out into his Como-O. Como-O is a pretty safe switch into this Manectric, you know, pretty much every time. I do get confused, but this gives me the opportunity to now go for a Volt Switch because I didn't actually get off my Thunderbolt. Getting off the damage might have been okay, but it's not that important, I don't think. So I am going to Volt Switch after I break out of Confusion, get off 15%, and I am going to go into my Vaporeon because this thing does seem to be physical, and my Vaporeon is max physical defense. So Sky Uppercut, as you can see, does very little, just 28%. He is going to pivot now into his Manaphy, as I go for Wish, because I want to get up to full HP. I don't want this thing to set up, so I click Roar as he goes for the Ice Beam. He might have been expecting my switch into the Bulu, because I've shown that in the past to be my switch in. Like, if he was expecting me to bring Assault Vest Bulu again, it would have been nice for him to get off some chip with the Ice Beam. Plus, it would have helped him identify what sort of set I was. But anyway, he goes into the Nape. I'm going to get my Wish up here in just a minute. I could probably Wish again, because he's not going to be able to 2-KO me based on the damage that he's shown before. He's not Banded, he's not Life Orb. So I assume he's probably Scarf. And but I don't actually go for the Wish after I get up to full HP here. I'm just going to go for the Scald. Just because, you know, it probably isn't the best play, but it's a pretty safe play. I can get off damage on just about anything. Anyway, he takes a pretty nice chunk of damage there, 36% from the Pidgeot, and he's going to go for the Hurricane. I did calc this beforehand, and there was no way he could 2-KO me if he's timid. And I think even if he was modest, there was no way he could 2-KO. Just because the natural special defense on this thing is so good, and I have max HP. So it's quite nice. But he's going to go for the Hurricane as I go for the Wish. I do luckily get that off, and I am going to now pass into my Celesteela. Because even if he wants to go, like if he's going to go for Hurricane again, I'm going to basically heal up to full. If he goes for Heat Wave, I'm not going to die because I do have the Occa Berry. It would stink to burn it. But you know, at least I'd be at max HP, and I can still take a Heat Wave from full against a Pidgeot. So he goes for Defog, which is a pretty nice play because he doesn't want his own Pidgeot to be limited, you know, in terms of its switch-ins. I would imagine that his set is probably Hurricane, Defog, Roost, and then he either has U-Turn or Heat Wave. Like, Heat Wave just makes so much sense versus me, but maybe he does not have it because Hurricane on its own is so powerful. But here, the fact that I've brought this in now, like, he could go for the Overheat, but I think that it's somewhat plausible that he thinks I'm Occa Berry, just from that, you know, how I've brought this in. Because if he had gone for Heat Wave, my Celesteela would not have gotten up to its, it wouldn't have gotten wished up. It would have been OHKO'd by the Heat Wave. So I guess I make a little bit of a bold play here. I'm expecting his Metagross switch in because he showed that to be the switch in before, and I'm going to click Earthquake. Obviously, that wouldn't do anything to the Pidgeot that's sitting in front of me here. But I do go for it, and he does double out, or not double out, but switches out, and he goes into Infernape. And I talked to Phalop after the match. Like, I don't think this is necessarily a bad play, because, you know, I could just be going for Heavy Slam here, or I could be going for, I don't know, Giga Drain or something, expect the Manaphy. It just stinks because the penalty for him being wrong in this scenario is that he loses his Infernape, which does outspeed my entire team. It would outspeed my Celesteela if I get off an Autotomize. And, yeah, it's just really pretty crappy for him. So, you know, Phalop has expressed to me, you know, he really wishes he could take this play back. Again, I don't think it's a bad play, but it just didn't work out. And it is going to go down, and I get my attack boost, which is quite nice. So I see him bringing the Metagross here. I do the Calc. I've got a pretty good shot to 2-KO this thing, even if it's max defense Impish. So even if he's got Thunder Punch, I think Thunder Punch does like 40% or so to Celesteela. And I do have 80 HP investment to try and take this thing on a little bit better. I don't really see any reason not to try and go for an Earthquake here. So I am going to click it, and I do have speed because I'm got 222 speed, and he's already shown to be max HP. And we do 52% to him, easily into a KO range. I have no reason not to click it again. Even if he wants to double out into his Mismagius or something, or into his Pidgeot, that just gives me an opportunity to Autotomize. So we are going to take out the Metagross. It goes down. We're going to go up to +2 attack. And unfortunately, I think you guys can probably figure out what's going to happen from here. I say unfortunately because I feel really pretty crappy about you know, beating somebody like Phalop. It's not that I beat him badly. Like, I mean, not that I don't feel bad about beating him, but it just never feels good to be on the losing end of a 6-0. And he does have the Rindo Berry on this Manaphy, which is quite nice. That's how he chose to counter my Bulu. But I digress. Especially somebody like Phalop, who's just such a class act and never like blames hacks or his opponents for his loss. Like I just really like hate to do this to him, because he definitely doesn't deserve it. And he's, you know, I think he's probably the best battler in this league. So anyway, we are gonna end up with a 6-0 victory here versus Phalop. Celesteela just proved to be such a beast. I want to give a shout out to my buddy Immortal Ments for suggesting Autotomize Celesteela to me. And Celesteela finally does some work. It's I'm pretty sure it is now like top 3 on the kill chart. So that's quite nice. I've really been waiting for that to happen. But if you guys don't know Phalop, you guys aren't familiar, I really strongly encourage you to check him out. He's in the UPC, of course, but he's also in the GPC. And he's a very talented battler and just a very humble and cool guy. So that's going to do it for me. We're up to 4-4 in the UPC with a +4 differential. We are out of the playoff race for a little bit, I thought, but now we're starting to look pretty good. We're pretty much tied for a wild card spot, and we have to play Aiden still this season, who is our main competitor for this spot. So if we can beat him, we're going to be in a good spot, I think. You know, but we can't really can't take anything for granted. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check back to the channel for more gaming and Pokemon content. And until the next time, I will see you guys later.